Welcome to the joint meeting between the Village of Johnson City trustees and Binghamton City Council. We're going to discuss the budget for the joint sewage treatment plant. I'll let Lee take roll call, and we'll say a couple words about the meeting. Okay.
City Council.
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Lee, I can barely hear you, but present.
So Councilman Scaringi's here, Councilwoman Resnetti,
Present.
Councilwoman Riley,
Present.
Councilwoman Friedman is absent for the time being. Councilman Burns.
Here.
I believe Councilman Strawn is absent as well. And President Scanlon.
Here.
That's 5 here with Friedman.
You want Mayor to do roll call there?
Mayor Demi, do you want to do roll call on your end, or do you want me to do it?
I thought he was here myself, Trustee Reynolds and Trustee Walker. As far as I know, that's all that's showing up from JC.
Okay. That's
Deputy
fine.
Treasurer Johnson.
Oh, yep, and Tom Johnson.
And
Since-
Attorney Cheryl Sacco.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Since I can't see everybody, as we go through the budget here, going over the budget, just state who's speaking, please, and ask your question, and we'll move forward like that. At this point, I'll turn it over to Charles Pearsall and Elliot to discuss the budget, please.
Good evening. My name's Elliot Wagner. I'm the acting superintendent at the Binghamton Johnson City Joint Sewage Treatment Plant. I'd like to thank all the elected officials, members of the board, and public for being here tonight. I'd especially like to thank the members of the sewer board for their help and guidance through this process. Lastly, I'd like to acknowledge the hours and dedication of the department heads and facility staff and their efforts to help us put together our projected 2021 budget. This process is a collaboration between the city, village, board, and plant staff in creating a budget that will keep our costs in check and ensure proper maintenance of all equipment and processes at the plant. And in doing so, allow us to faithfully meet the New York State DEC permit requirements, which will ultimately help in restoring the natural beauty of the Susquehanna River and the Chesapeake Bay watershed. With that, I'd like to introduce you to our business manager, Charles Pearsall, who will take you line by line through the projected 2021 budget. Thank you.
Before I do begin, I'd like to give an overview for the trustees and council people who are new, although I think all the trustees have been through this with us before. The owners, which are the city and village, are so called because you own the physical assets of the treatment plant, and the board, composed of 3 appointees from each owner, oversees the staffing, operations, and maintenance. We are primarily funded by charging municipalities based on the reported water billing flows, and a small portion is directly billed to local industry for the IWPP. No tax dollars are used, and the estimated revenue is as required to leave 0 net balance. Revenue is produced by quarterly billings based on the budget. If the eventual actual costs are below the budget, any excess revenue is returned to the ratepayers using the same approved flows. On a dry weather day, we may receive 18 to 20 million gallons per day. However, in wet weather, that will climb to 60 million gallons per day. So as you can see, we are challenged to produce a budget that is heavily dependent upon the weather. And in the past 10 years, only 1 year was below normal, 3 were normal, and in 2001, all employees are civil service tested, and the plant provides its own payroll services as well as health and property insurance coverage. I would request that as we work through the budget that we follow the lines sequentially as I will be trying to input any changes to allow a real-time tabulation of the result. The normal sequence is that any line changes are moved to the contingency account, and then a motion is made to either alter the revenue or leave a portion in contingency. So with that, I would ask you to turn, you should have a munis report, and I believe there was a cover page provided that shows the revenue lines and the higher categories. As you prefer, we can start with that, or we can go right through the budget line by line. You should all be looking at the one that was dated 8/11/2020 in the lower left. I think I checked with Lee that we were all using the same pages. So with that, I will start right down. The government entity fees, and again, we calculate this to be a zero net balance. We anticipate needing $23,206,202 that would be billed to the municipalities and the Binghamton University. The the industrial wastewater permit program is a $1,012,250 number. That's primarily Frito-Lay in the city of Binghamton. Interest and earnings, we anticipate $7,000. We have less in the bank than was prior years, so we've toned that down some. Permits, which is what we charge, $1,000. Again, it's a local industry, pay a $25 service to use the IWPP program. Sale of scrap and excess, we anticipate $1,500, just a small placeholder. Second page, the state disaster relief, that would be the FEMA money. We're showing $612,400 based on conversation with our recovery consultant from the state. For the federal program, $1,837,200. Those numbers can go up and down. It doesn't affect much of anything because any additional revenue or any lower revenue would just alter what we turn around and give back to the lead agency because they have rebuilt the plant for us. So any recoveries from now on go directly back to them to pay down the debt service. That brings us to $26,677,552, the total revenue we anticipate needing for the budget year. Questions on any of the revenue lines? Hearing none. The third page starts off. Go ahead.
The fines that we had were not completed in time. Were they all paid, or are we? Was that in last year's budget, or we still have to pay those off, or what's the story with those?
Mr. President.
That's at the tail end of the expenses. We'll get to that, but at this point, we have completed, and to my knowledge, there will be no additional fines or penalties unless we exceed the BOD and the TSS, total knowledge.
Mr. Crum, would you like to add something to that?
Yes, I would. From Sewage Board Member, Chair of the Finance Committee. I'd just like to add, there is one outstanding item under the consent order, which is the environmental benefit project. It requires a $50,000 payment by the Sewage Board to an environmental benefit project, which in coordination with the DEC is a stream bank stabilization project upstream from the plant on Fuller Hollow Creek. The project is being done by the local watershed commission, and that's been delayed because of the process with COVID-19 and may not happen until next year, but that's something that, you know, we've planned for, so there is money set aside for that. So I just, in the interest of full disclosure, I want to make sure that comes out on the table.
Is that a fine?
It's in lieu of a fine. It's under the consent order, and it was negotiated rather than paying a fine to the DEC in that amount of money, $50,000, that the money could be instead paid to this environmental benefit project. That will help the plant because to the extent we can stabilize the stream bank upstream from the plant, there's less gravel and debris washing down in a heavy precipitation event or snow melt, which in the past has caused a rock, crushed gravel type rock delta to form at the mouth of Fuller Hollow Creek, which interferes with the mixing of the plant's effluent into the river. So that benefits us to do it that way rather than just have to pay a fine to the DEC that who knows exactly where that would go to.
So I guess my question again would you classify that as a fine for the DEC that we have to pay? And is it classified as a fine?
It's technically not classified as a fine, but because it arises under the consent order, it's pretty much the same thing as a fine.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Point of clarification, this is Councilwoman Riley. We were supposed to receive a bit of a letter from that gentleman detailing the requirements to fulfill that DEC proposal. I think that was the meeting before last. Did you guys receive such?
No, ma'am, we did not.
Okay.
So
Okay. And we were going to share that with council so they understood this piece that you're explaining now, Mr. Crum.
So what is she speaking about? Mr. Crum, what's she talking about there?
At the August meeting, there was a presentation by John LaGorga, a professional engineer with GHD Consulting Services. And he has been coordinating on the board's behalf with the DEC for this environmental benefit project. And he gave a discussion of the project and where it stood in the approval process. And there was a request at the end of that there be a document that summarizes the project that comes out of that. He provided to council representatives, but because the negotiations with the DEC as far as the logistics of this payment haven't quite been finalized, that document hasn't been finalized yet either. So it's still forthcoming, and I think we're aware of the request and intend to have that provided when we're at the point that the document's ready to release.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Pearsall, please continue.
All right. The first line in the expenses is personal services, and we have budgeted $2,794,951. You should have received in the email or from Mr. Roberts a organizational chart showing the structure and where those people are, and the detail is also provided by title in the descriptions under the line. That represents 47 employees, which is 2 less than we're authorized, but we feel that number is what we achieve normalcy.
Mr. Pearsall, is there raises in this budget? Is the raises already calculated in this budget?
There are none. The board elected to offer the salaried employees no raise, 0 change. The union has not yet made a proposal to us. This is a negotiation year. So we don't have anything built into that. That's better.
Yes.
Again, I'd just like to make a clarifying comment that under the existing union collective bargaining agreement, for a new hire employee for the first 3 years of their employment, there are certain step increases provided, $1 an hour increase at 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and 3rd anniversary. So that there are few lines in this budget where we have newly hired employees that haven't completed 3 years employment. And the funding to comply with the union collective bargaining agreement is built into this budget. Based on the service of the employees, it's not a raise, it's a cost of living type raise.
Thank you. Mr. Pearsall, while we're on personnel services, could you provide the council and the trustees with the last 5 years of the ending salary for each employee at the plant?
Verbally,
Well, just individually, so I can see what type of raises have been over the years.
the raises that have been granted are in 2015, 3%, 2016, 2%, 2017, 2%, 2018, 2%, 2019, 2% plus a 1% stipend for the management, and in 2020, 2%. Those are management. The hourlies have been, gosh. That was? I thought there was a 1 3/4 in there somewhere. Oh, that was it for both. Then I believe the management was tied to the hourly, so.
Yeah, could you put that on a piece of paper so I can see that, please? Provide that to us.
Do you have email available?
I didn't hear what you said. Did anybody hear that?
Your email, I think.
Charlie, you're breaking up like you're talking too close to the microphone. You might want to slow it down and back up a little bit.
Okay.
Or take the mask off.
So I can send you an email if you have availability to that right now, or.
Just send it to the clerk, please, the city clerk, and he can distribute it.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Tom, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Charlie, how many vacant positions do you have over here? Could you outline which ones are vacant today?
I'll turn that over to.
Okay, as of right now, we have 9 vacant positions. Those vacancies are the computer system engineer, safety coordinator, head electrician, shift lead operator for second shift, 2 operator 3 positions, 1 operator 2 position, 1 electrician position, 1 mechanic position, for a total of 9 vacancies. A total number of staff at the plant as of right now is 35.
Thank you, Elliot. So other questions about the personnel services? All right, please continue, Mr. Pearsall.
All right, the next line is our salary adjustment pool. There is no money in there for a salary adjustment per se. There's $11,883, and that gives the superintendent the discretion to hire at above the starting rate, which is usually $4 per hour lower, as Mr. Crum mentioned, or for certain positions, some of them are ramped up with the first 6 months. That gives him the opportunity, if somebody is available that is experienced and won't need a training or break-in period, he can offer them the full rate. We have nothing budgeted for temporary services. Overtime, $62,500, which is based on historical and full staffing. Equipment, we have $23,800. There's a detailed list of what makes up that number, and those are all based on quasi quotes because we don't have Most quotes are only good for 90 days, but we did go out and explore to see what this would cost. So those are fairly known numbers. Office equipment, $1,000. That's mostly a placeholder. It's just to replace things as they break, or if they break, would be printers, whiteboards, anything durable. Furniture, we have $700, which could easily be consumed if we need a chair for one of the new employees. Hardware, software, $12,000. There's a schedule of replacement for the oldest PCs, and we're also having some problems with our surge protectors and power sources. We have, each desk is able to support itself for supposedly at least an hour, to give us a chance to shut down and operate if we do lose power. Those are at the end of their lives, so some of those may be being replaced. The key system, $1,000. That's basically just locks and security. We have fences to protect, doors, needing additional keys. Safety equipment. I'm sorry, was that a question? Safety equipment? Well, we're getting a little feedback. Safety equipment, we have $15,000. Again, gas detectors, sensors, personal protective equipment. Typically, we run about that amount. The accounting service, $40,000. That is, the city of Binghamton maintains our general ledger and does all of our banking. Reimburse village local systems costs, $986,545. That's for the village of Johnson City's, the use of their sewers and local systems, we do reimburse. Same for the city, the next line down, $2,942,234. Those numbers are provided by the city and village, so you will be seeing those later as you go through the budgets for those areas. Reimburse village debt service, $5,171,390,000. That's to reimburse for the debt. That's anything that's a financial instrument for bonds or bands. Mostly for this project, but there's some older debt that continues to be in line here. Same for the city, $5,952,828. Those numbers are provided by the controller's office and the treasurer and clerk of Johnson City. So we're fairly certain of those, and we do know by instrument what the debt will be. I would note too, that those four lines are the primary sources of our budget. So there's $17 million out of our $26 million. Office supplies, $800,000. That's
No.
post.
8,000.
I'm sorry, $8,000. Glasses are fogging up as I talk here. That's postage and consumable office supplies. Again, that's a fairly historical number. It doesn't vary much year to year. Printing, where we need to have legal ads or proposals for bids or projects, $4,500. Gasoline and diesel, $15,000 for our vehicles.
And the generators.
And now, that's true, we now have two large generators. So you will see historically that number had been lower, but since we've got those, there's a $10,000 diesel tank we have to feed. So that's up a bit. Lubricants, $7,000. That's actually down slightly. We found a very favorable supply for the lubricants we need. Building and ground supplies, $15,000. Next page over, there's a detail. Basically, what we need to maintain the grounds, keep the sidewalks and roads de-iced inside the plant. Laboratory supplies, $66,000. That's for our in-house lab.
process testing.
And yes, as it says, process testing. Chemicals, $1,230,000. The detail below. That's a similar level, but there's been some significant changes within. Now that we're up and running on this new system, the mix of chemicals is different. But those are fairly well-known numbers based on, as I mentioned earlier, we're weather dependent, but we're confident those numbers. Protective clothing, $28,000. Suits, boots, gloves. We keep our employees covered. With COVID, it hasn't greatly increased what we use here except for face masks, because we've always been fairly careful about protecting the employees. Gas and heat, $175,000. Electricity, $900,000. We now have 5 micro turbines that are producing electricity with the outgassing from the digesters. However, we also have ultraviolet. There's a greater demand of electricity to feed those. They about offset each other. And in the budget, we are assuming most of those turbines will be functional for the full year. We've actually were able to tone it down from the prior budget because at that time they weren't working at all. So now that we've had some experience on those, we can see what they're actually generating. The electricity for the pump station, $140,000. Electricity for the terminal pump station, that's the building over at Gates Road, $85,000. Telephone, fax, and internet, $30,000. Water, $140,000. Insurance, $290,000. Again, that's increasing because we now have many more buildings to insure. There's a breakdown of the various components between liability, vehicle, and property. Professional services, $133,690. The board member services for the 6 board members, $38,750. Legal services, which is the board's counsel, $42,000.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman, go ahead.
it's Gio. Hey, Charlie, how are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm well, sir. Thank you. Forgive me, if I could just pop back to page 4 for a second. The gasoline diesel line, .54112. So I noticed that in 219, there was about 10.4 that was expended. And then the adopted and the adjusted literally doubled the following year. And I'm noticing that you put down for, or it was, I'm sorry, input into the proposed budget for this year, a 25% decrease. Given the fact that if I misunderstood you, I apologize and please correct me, but I thought you had said that there were 2 additional diesel tankers. Could you explain what is driving that variation over the last 2 years and why the decrease? I know gas and diesel prices have dropped, say, over the last year. I don't know if that's part of the assumption in the accounting, but I was just wondering if you could speak to that a little more specifically, please.
It's a single 10,000 gallon tank. When
Okay.
we were doing the 2020 budget in 2019, we thought it was going to be imminent. So we thought it was going to be filled then. It wasn't.
Got it.
So now that it's filled, we're not running those generators except in emergency. The tanks are already filled. We'll be topping it off as they test run them, but what we will more likely be doing is conditioning that diesel, where they actually bring somebody in and suck it out through a filter and replace it to get any of the microbes and contaminants out. So now that we have filled those tanks, we don't anticipate having to refill them very often.
That makes sense. Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Back to page 6, payroll services, $9,000. Emergency confined space rescue, $4,600. That's an arrangement we have with the city, and it's a 3-year arrangement for that price per year. So God willing, we'll never need it. Laboratory services, $86,000. This is outside lab testing, and that number is based on an actual bid we have in. So it should be fairly solid. It is an increase from where we had been, but the DEC is expecting additional testing on us. So vehicle repair, Vehicle repair, $35,500. That's to maintain our fleet of vehicles. Equipment lease and rental, $15,000. There's an increase substantial on that line, but we have an arrangement now with a company. We were handed this process, and there's a series of vapor detectors. Some of them are oxygen and some are hydrogen sulfide. There's 8 of each, and they have a limited life and they don't have a very good shelf life. So rather than purchase these to keep on the shelf till we may need them, at which time they may not be even usable, we have an arrangement. It's a subscription service basically with MSA, just mine safety and fire departments, where every year they send us replacements, we send the old ones back and get credit on them. So it is much more favorable than buying them and stocking them, though it is an increase on that line. Building equipment, repairs and maintenance, $8,400. Equipment repairs and maintenance, $26,500. Equipment pump repairs mechanical, $95,000. Equipment pump repairs and instrumentation, $60,000. Equipment pump repairs safety, $4,000. This is mostly calibrations of our lab equipment. Maintenance agreements, $60,820. That one bounces all year to year because some years we have what's called a major renovation and others are minor on the centrifuges. 2021 will be a minor, so it's less expensive. Travel and training, $25,000. Travel and training for the board, $2,000. Subscriptions, dues, and memberships, $3,100. Industrial pre-treatment, $130,000. Permits, fees, and fines. This is the one where you would see fines, $20,405. There are no fines incorporated in this. This is just permits. Our Speedies permit is $15,500, and there's several other small permits. Discharge, the dump, we have to have permits. So we are not incorporating any fines or penalties into this line. Sludge and waste disposal, $290,000. A significant drop there for several reasons. One, the sludge we do ship out is drier. There will be less of it because we're actually reducing things through digestion rather than just allowing it to settle out. Reimburse owner recovery expense, $2,200,000. This was the FEMA I had mentioned earlier in the revenue. If we get it in, we turn around and send it back to Binghamton, Jackson City. And contingency, $250,000.
Charlie, can you explain the contingency line, please?
Contingency is, we budget for everything we know or can guess. That's for something we don't know anything about and can't even guess. That would be something so oddball or infrequent, or it rains more than we anticipated for a normal year. It's just something that's not built into any other budget line, but gives us a cushion so we won't have to increase what we charge the ratepayers.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Questions on any of the department lines? Page 9, state retirement, 397,500. This is actually a number that the state will invoice us. Usually sometime in the middle of September, they will send us an estimated invoice for that number. We're expecting it to go up, number one, because we've added 3 positions to the basis. Number 2, we're just anticipating it will probably go up because of market conditions. Social Security, 219,505. That's a percentage. It's 7.65 per FICA based on the personal services line. Workers' compensation, $115,000. Anticipating a slight increase. Unemployment insurance, usually we just put in $100 to hold that line, but we do actually have employees who are drawing unemployment. They've extended it. We anticipate needing this for the current employees we have that are drawing unemployment. Disability insurance, again, a placeholder, $250. The last several years, we've actually gotten refunds on that line, so we have negative expenses, but they're small amounts. Hopefully, we don't have anybody severely injured that will need that. Page 14, health insurance, $420,000. Excellus alerted us to a 5.6% increase in our health insurance, unfortunately. The health insurance buyout, $70,000. We do offer employees who are not using the health insurance a $5,000 buyout. It's much favorable to our budget if they have to take that, if they can get insurance elsewhere. And for the health insurance retirees, $20,000. We have had a couple of recent, I'm sorry, $200,000. We have had a couple retirees currently, there's 22. Questions on insurance? Page 15. Other employee benefits. A sick time buyback, $42,000. Vacation buyback, $28,000. And the wellness benefit, it's $300 per employee that can actually provide the support that they've attended the gym a certain number of times, $39,000.
3,900.
3,900, yeah. Sorry. I was gonna say with COVID, we probably won't have anybody actually drawing on that line, but we have to be prepared in case. They might reopen the gyms by the first of next year as well. They have to. And the final page is the capital projects. There's a list of the detail there. All the ones that we are adding or increasing come to $290,000, but we've come up with existing capital projects that can be closed because the actual expenditures were below what we had budgeted for. There's $70,000 and some change to offset that, bringing the total to $228,606. And the transfer to flood capital fund, $249,600. That is the net. If you compare the FEMA recoveries for the state and federal disaster to what is reimbursed to the owners. This is where we draw the funds out to pay the recovery service that we use. May or may not be that number. It could go up or down based on what it's actually recovered. But again, the revenue will offset compared to the expenses, so it nets to zero. And that is the 2021 budget as the superintendent, the board, and I would like to present to the owners.
President Scanlon ran to the bathroom. Oh, he's back.
Oh, I hope the mic hasn't been off for the last 20 minutes.
What it is.
Charlie just wrapped up in the last day.
Okay.
It's ready for
So we have two options at this point. We can vote on this budget right now, or if somebody would like to hold it over, please speak up and obviously state a reason why you'd like to hold it over if you do.
Hi, President Scanlon, this is Councilwoman Friedman.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we do hold it over, when would it then be voted on?
Obviously, Lee would have to get together with the trustees and city council, come up with a date where we can have a meeting. I'm not sure what that date would be. Is there a reason you'd like to hold it over?
I guess this is maybe, I prefer to have information presented and then have a chance to go, like now that we've gone through this line by line a little bit more, I think, I mean, I personally feel more comfortable with a chance to like digest this now, given LOL digest. That was a sewage treatment plant joke, but I'm just kidding. But, you know, just a chance to look it over now with this extra supplemental information.
All right, so I need a motion to hold this over.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily would make that motion yet. I'm curious how other people feel about this, if they agree or disagree. You know, I don't want to be annoying suggesting another meeting, but I just think it's nice to have, you know, information presented and then a chance to go over the budget, like on my own time with this extra information. That's just my opinion.
Aviva, this is Trustee Reynolds from Johnson City. I would agree with you.
Okay, all right, so somebody please make a motion to hold it over if that's what we're gonna do. I mean.
Okay, I guess
This is Councilwoman Riley. Do we have the quorum necessary for moving forward if we were not to hold it over?
Yes, we have a quorum today. Quorum
Okay,
constitutes 3 from Johnson City and 4 from the city of Binghamton.
Which we have.
Thank
5,
you.
6, actually.
We need 6 for the city?
Well, right now we have 6.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so we have enough votes. There's a quorum, so again, if somebody like to hold it over, please make a motion to hold it over.
Okay, this is Councilwoman Friedman. I'd like to make a motion to hold this over so we can vote on it at a separate meeting, having had time to digest the information, given the supplemental information that Charlie was able to provide for us.
Second, Councilwoman Riley.
Okay, so I have a motion to hold it over a second, so this will be held over. Lee will obviously get together with trustees and the council people to come up with a date for a second meeting. Is a week enough time to review these things? Would you say
I
or
think
no?
so. This is Councilwoman Friedman. I think a week is sufficient.
Okay.
Agreed.
This is Attorney Cheryl Sacco. Lee, are you going to do a roll call from the city?
Okay.
Can we do an all in favor to make it easier?
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
Mr. President, point of order. So what are the rules of the body for holding it over? Are they the same as the way the City Council of Binghamton operates? I don't even know what the chamber rules for the village board is. And is it even different for this body in conjunction together? I don't know if any of the lawyers can speak to that. Does this actually need a roll call? Does this?
Cheryl, if you're there, I'm fine with an all in favor. And
I am as well. I think the motion and the second came from one body. The roll call should come from there. If they hold it over, the village can decide to hold it over as well and do the same. And I think it can be an all in favor.
All right, so who's in favor of holding this over? I mean, say aye if you're in favor of holding this over.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed to holding this over? All right, the meeting will be held over, obviously.
No.
Somebody said something else. Then Lee, obviously, we'll get together and try to pull everybody, see when we get together next time. Anybody have anything else they want to discuss? I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Go ahead.
This is Councilwoman Riley. I do have a question for Chuck Pearsall and Chuck Shager. I know are they both still there?
Mr. Shager's not here right now.
Okay, I'll hold it and send an email, but then it would be best to send it to everyone because it's regarding the budget.
Okay. Anybody have anything else they'd like to discuss before we adjourn? I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we're adjourned.
Second.
Thank you.